Drones are the newest fad when it comes to technology these days. People use them for work, leisure, and art. Dave, a man from Ontario, Canada, likes to use his drone as part of his love for photography. One day, while exploring a familiar pasture, Dave noticed something strange happening nearby. He used his drone to take a closer look, but what he discovered was even worse than what he imagined. In the past, when people talked about drones, they sounded like something out of science fiction. But today, drones have become so common that it's now normal to see one flying through your local park. Drones aren't just fun, they're useful. Because of how easy it is to learn how to control them, there's almost no end to what these little aerial cameras can capture. Authorities have even taken a liking to drones, often using them in search and rescue missions. But it's not just professionals utilizing these handy gadgets. Dave, a man from Ontario, Canada, loves to go to the countryside and snap photos of the landscape and animals grazing there with his drone. He had no idea that his love of drone photography would eventually lead him to a dark discovery. It all started on a typical sunny July morning when Dave decided to go to a nearby pasture he was familiar with in hopes of catching that perfect photo. The area in question is home to many cows and cattle with rolling hills and watering holes. But that day, Dave noticed something strange about a particular cow. He needed to take a closer look. One blonde cow, captured by his footage, had something peculiar on their nose. Dave couldn't quite tell what it was, but it looked like maybe coarse tufts of hair were growing out of its nose. Luckily, cows are curious by nature, so the cow was intrigued by the drone and kept following it as it flew along. It was only then that Dave knew exactly what the strange thing on the cow's nose really was. Dozens of large, sharp porcupine quills. Dave wasn't sure how long the cow had been injured, but he knew if he didn't act fast, then the wound could become infected or the quills could become permanently embedded in the skin. Upon further investigation of the footage taken by his drone, he noticed that all of the cows were tagged by their farmer. Using these tags, he was able to identify the injured cow's name, Linda. With this information in hand, Dave raced to the farmhouse to notify the farmer of Linda's grave condition. He could only hope that he managed to pass on the news before the cow came to greater harm. Together, the farmer and Dave began to isolate Linda from the herd. It wasn't easy. The cows sensed that something was going down. Luckily, the men were eventually able to get her into the stables for treatment. The farmer administered local anesthetics to numb the wounded area first. Only then was he able to carefully remove the quills from Linda's nose and apply antibiotics to prevent any potential infection. After her quick procedure was complete, Linda was fed a large bowl of corn and oats and then reunited with her herd. The owner monitored Linda's recovery from a distance and thanked Dave for his discovery. This isn't the first time Dave has spotted something alarming on his drone and helped an animal in need, either. Believe it or not, this has almost become a second calling for him. Previously, he was out using his drone in the pasture and noticed another cow named Flo in distress. Her newborn calf managed to slip under the electric fence, becoming separated from the herd and herself. When Dave noticed what was happening on his drone's feed, he ran down to the pasture and risked injury to push the baby calf, later named Sparky, back under the fence to reunite the two. This drone rescue is what inspired Dave to return to the pasture in July and ultimately save Linda. Taking action and returning Sparky to his mother gave him such a rush, he knew he had to do more to help. The ever-evolving drone technology is proving to be a tremendous resource in more ways than one. Dave never expected his hobby to rescue not one, but two cows. Who knows how many more he might save. It seems as if these cows are lucky to have Dave watch over them with his drone. Remember, always contact the professionals if you spot an animal in need while using your drone or even just while driving down the highway. It's a common belief that animals lack the ability to solve complex problems. But for Brianna, a Holstein Friesian cow that looked like any other run-of-the-mill bovine, the notion was laughable. One fateful day, Brianna and her mooing brethren were corralled into a strange, large truck. She sensed a change in the winds. It's not every day a cow takes a trip in a vehicle. Something was happening that put her on high alert. Racing down the New Jersey highway, in the dead of night, the truck carried a 2-story load of cows. The final destination was, sadly, the slaughterhouse. But the cows could have no way of knowing where they were headed, such an idea seemed impossible. But Brianna stood apart from the herd. Even though there's no way to be sure of her perceptiveness, something caused Brianna to make a daring move aboard the 2nd-story level of the truck, something that suggests she knew exactly what fate had in store. At 2:45 a.m., the time had come for Brianna to take action. With a swift, powerful kick, she busted open the door, keeping the cows safely inside their carriage. It was now or never, and Brianna had made her decision. Still on the truck, flying down the highway, Brianna looked down at the 8-foot drop to the blurry paved road. In one moment of insane bravery, or maybe just unawareness, since she's a cow, Brianna leaped out of the truck bed into the night air. 8 feet is quite a drop, and miraculously Brianna survived. In fact, she was fine. Despite some minor scrapes on her legs, she had landed the jump and still remained intact. Sayonara Slaughterhouse. Still, the motivation behind her leap of faith was unclear. Sure, she could have a particularly tenacious personality, but how could she know to fear her impending doom? After all, none of the other cows made a gamble for their lives. The lone cow on the open highway, Brianna set off on hoof. She roamed the roads with ease. Thankfully, traffic was almost non-existent in the wee morning hours. Freedom tasted almost as good as fresh grass.